Hello, and welcome to this Halloween edition of Relaxing Facts. I am Chad K, and I will be sharing a short story with you that I wrote quite a few years ago. It's called Jenny. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this special Halloween story. Jenny, Chapter 1. It's been a while since things have stopped. I still take sleeping pills every night and leave the lights and TV on. 10 years is a long time, but it's nowhere near enough time to erase what happened from my memory. It will be with me until the day I die. I can trace it all back to the Ouija board. It had all the features of the old thick wooden ones you see in horror movies. A flat board with the alphabet and numbers inscribed across it, the ominous words goodbye, yes, and no at the bottom, and the small triangular planchette that the spirits used to communicate with the living. But mine wasn't all that mystic looking. It was made by Milton Bradley, for God's sake, and the planchette was made of cheap plastic with China stamped on the underside. I bought it at Toys R Us with money from my minimum wage job at the time. I was actually disappointed because I did want an old one from a dusty antique store. But the picture on the flat rectangular box sort of made up for that. It showed a gray-haired gypsy fortune teller hunched over a talking board in a candlelit room. I couldn't wait to show my girlfriend. I brought it home one day, without the box, of course. I didn't want her to see that it was made by the same company that produced Candyland. We went into the bedroom, turned off the lights, and closed the blinds. It was afternoon, so the room was still as bright as ever. Oh well, so much for the ambiance. If we place our fingertips on this triangle piece and ask a question, I told Jenny, the board will give us an answer. A male and female are ideal because of the energy balance. Oh, Jenny responded, her eyes growing larger. I didn't tell her that I had read all that on the instruction sheet inside the box. Ask it something, Jenny said, urging me in a hushed tone. What do you want me to ask it? I replied, not taking my eyes off the black letters and numbers on the beige background. Are we going to get married? I stared at the planchette. Ask it, Jenny said impatiently. You just did, I replied. Jenny sighed. You're such a guy. Okay. In a solemn voice, I asked the board the question. We both gazed at the planchette, making sure not to apply too much pressure so that the spirits would be able to move it. Nothing happened. Why don't we ask something personal about the spirit? You know, an icebreaker. Maybe we have to get to know it first. Each board is inhabited by a different ghost, I said, dropping some more knowledge. This time it was from a movie. All right. How about its name? Jenny suggested. I nodded, took a few seconds to compose myself, and then asked the question. Oh, great, I thought when the planchette still didn't move. What a bunch of crap. Just then, the plastic triangle moved slowly but steadily beneath our fingertips. We both gasped at the same time, my pulse throbbing. Stop moving it, I whispered to Jenny, my voice filled with panic. I'm not, she whispered back, equally freaked out. I could not comprehend the sight before me. The planchette moved methodically to 3 different letters and then stopped, pausing only a second at each one. It had spelled out the name Sam. How did you die? Jenny asked next, her voice quivering. The planchette slowly spelled out the word car. Do you mean a car accident? I asked. The pointer moved down and stopped at the word yes. I continued, mesmerized, drawn into this bizarre conversation. How old were you? Our fingers moved, along with the planchette, to the number 2. "We gotta get out of here," my mind screamed out. The thought quickly fled like a thief. Jenny asked the next question excitedly. We were on a roll. "How can you spell if you're only 2 years old?" "No," I thought. "Now she's gone and pissed off the spirit." The planchette crept along the board, this time straight downward. It stopped at the bottom on the word goodbye. "Why," Jenny started. I quickly put my hand on her arm. "Goodbye, Sam," I interrupted, my heart racing inside my chest like an engine. As I closed the board and set it aside, Jenny looked at me, eyebrows raised. "What happened? Why did we suddenly stop?" "The Ouija board, the spirit, gets tired or whatever and decides when it's time to stop. If we keep asking questions when it doesn't want to answer," I trailed off. "We wouldn't want that." Jenny sat looking at the floor, her arms folded. I shivered. There was something else in the room. Chapter 2. The sound started a few nights later after we first contacted Sam. I awoke from a light, restless sleep. The moonlight shone on the bed from between the slits in the blinds, illuminating Jenny's face. Apparently, she didn't hear anything. Lucky her. The fear was too much for my mind. I felt like I was on a roller coaster going down the first big dip. The noise was just outside the bedroom in the hall. It sounded like a tricycle, the squeak of the wheels against the metal frame, the slight rumble as it rolled along the wooden floor. Jenny lay peacefully, a faint smile on her lips. God, how I envied her at that moment. "Jenny," I whispered urgently, shaking her. She groaned and turned over. "Who's there?" I called out into the darkness. No answer. I suppressed an urge to scream as the sound of the tricycle stopped and started, and I swear I could hear the muted grunts of a child straining to turn the pedals. I frantically recited Hail Marys and Our Fathers, dusty prayers from my youth that came back to me so easily now. Sometime later, I drifted off to sleep. Chapter 3. Jenny's voice was muffled and far away. I awoke alarmed, remnants of ice still in my bloodstream from late last night. "Hey, have you seen my white blouse?" "No," I muttered, bleary-eyed and groggy. Everything was all right. Maybe it was all just a dream. "Did you hear anything last night?" I called to her, slowly sitting up on the bed. "Yeah," she said, walking into the bedroom. "Just your snoring as usual. It's a wonder you didn't wake yourself up." "What? You were sound asleep all night." Jenny smiled, her perfect white teeth and sea-green eyes melting me. "Like always," she said, embracing my neck. Wrapping my arms around her slender waist, I pulled her back onto the bed. She giggled as her long auburn hair tumbled over her forehead, obscuring her radiant face. I don't remember hearing the tricycle again. Chapter 4. One night, later in the fall, I awoke and felt the comfort and warmth of Jenny's leg against mine. A moment later, she suddenly jolted upright. Suppressing an urge to scream, I turned to her. "What's wrong?" I called out. She didn't move. I sat up and followed her gaze, and that's when I saw it. A figure of a woman, her hourglass figure etched by the faint moonlight, stood beside Jenny. The woman wore a long black dress and a wide-brimmed hat with a veil covering her face. She looked straight ahead as if we weren't even there. Jenny remained motionless, transfixed by the apparition next to her. Go away! I screamed hysterically, and the woman instantly vanished. Jenny, her daze broken, turned on the bedside lamp while I scrambled to flip on the overhead light switch, horrified beyond words. We are not staying here, I bellowed. Things are getting stranger. And closer, Jenny added, shivering. What's wrong with you? How can you be so calm? I yelled. I don't know, she replied, struggling for words. I guess I didn't feel threatened. It was more like a peace overcame me. I shook my head. The Ouija board was gone, so why is all this still happening? I shuddered at the thoughts zooming through my head. Luckily, our lease was month to month, so we kept the lights on when we slept for the next few weeks. We got a place closer to downtown, thinking the action and bustle of the city would make us feel better than in the quiet suburbs. We moved into a much smaller apartment on the first of the month. Our lack of furniture didn't matter much. What little we had filled up the quaint space. The first night was normal. So normal that we ended up turning off the lights and TV. I think we left it behind, Jenny said the following day while unpacking. I grunted, helping her unload the rest of our junk. As I got to the bottom of one of the boxes, panic grabbed my heart with ice-cold hands. Oh my God, I yelled, gaping at the image of the Milton Bradley fortune teller before me. Jenny came over and put a hand on my shoulder. What is it? She asked, alarmed. I didn't have to tell her. She looked down at the ominous words on the board game and let loose with a terrifying shriek. I threw it away. I remember, Jenny cried, covering her mouth with both hands. I ripped open the lid, ready for the unexpected. Taking out the fold-up board, I tore it in half along the crease and took everything outside. I ran down the steps 2 at a time, headed for the huge dumpster on the far side of the property. The late afternoon sunlight looked hazy and surreal around me, like I was running through a nightmare. But later that night, nothing. Only peace and quiet. Chapter 5. Watching TV with my feet propped up on the coffee table, I barely heard Jenny's soft voice in the other room. I'm going to bed. All right, I said, my gaze fixed on the action movie that I hadn't seen in a while. The next thing I remember, I awoke on the sofa to horrendous shrieks coming from the bedroom. It was Jenny, but I had no idea her voice was capable of such madness. Oh God, I thought, my mind spinning with horror. No matter how hard I tried, I could not move my body. Am I dreaming? Finally, I pried myself off the sofa and struggled with each step toward the bedroom, my legs feeling like cement. At the doorway, I stood transfixed as Jenny thrashed on the bed, her arms and legs pinned down by an unseen force. Help! Please, no! She screamed, her voice growing more and more hoarse with each horrendous plea. As I drew closer, I saw that her bare arms and legs were covered with long red scratches. Her eyes, bulging with insanity, darted from side to side. My bladder unloaded as I witnessed fresh scratches forming on her cheeks. No, this isn't happening, I thought. Gasping for air, I mustered every ounce of strength and grabbed Jenny by the shoulders and shook her violently. Jenny! Jenny! I shouted. She didn't acknowledge my presence. Cursing and crying now, I tried pulling her off the bed, but she wouldn't budge. The unholy force was too powerful. Then, before I realized it, she became still and her cries tapered off. Jenny lay on her back, panting, staring at the ceiling. It's gone, she gasped between deep breaths. I wrapped my arms around her and hugged her sweat-drenched body. "What's gone, honey?" "The demon child," she said. Chapter 6. I can't believe it's been 10 years already. About a year after the occurrence with that unseen thing, my dear Jenny was taken from me when a drunk driver ran a red light and plowed into her. It took forever for them to get her mangled body out of the wreckage. I couldn't even kiss her goodbye at the closed casket funeral. I still see her in my dreams every now and then. She never talks, though, only smiles, that wonderful, gorgeous smile. I tried to reach out to her, but each time she fades away like a mist. Perhaps she will come tonight. I lie back on my pillow, squinting at the glare of the overhead light. The sleeping pills start to take effect, and I become oblivious to the blaring TV. "Jenny," I say to the empty room as I drift off to sleep. And that brings us to the end of our special Halloween story. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you have a great Halloween season and a great rest of your day. I really hope that you can join us next week for our regular episode. Until then, please take care. I am Chad K, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.